In this week's BizLine, Japan Bank urged to assist Vietnam in green energy transition. And later on, implementing FTAs can deliver the biggest productivity kick to Vietnam. Hello there, you're tuning into BizLine, our weekly economic journal on VTV International. I'm Hoàng Hằng, and as usual, we now take a look at news making headlines in Vietnam's economic scene this week.
Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh described Japan as a leading economic partner of Vietnam during a reception in Hanoi on September 14 for Governor of the Japan Bank for International Cooperation, JBIC, Hayashi Nobumitsu. He suggested the governor continue working closely with Japanese agencies to help Vietnam build a self-reliant and globally integrated economy, enhance policy consultations and workforce training, and promote public-private partnerships in the transition to green and clean energy. Agreeing with the Prime Minister's proposals, the JBIC official promised that JBIC and Japan will actively partner with Vietnam in climate change response, especially energy transition and renewable energy development via assistance in terms of capital, technology and workforce training.
More than $2.37 billion has been disbursed so far to financially support people and enterprises hurt by the COVID-19 as part of the National Socio-Economic Recovery and Development Program, according to a report by the Ministry of Planning and Investment. Of the total, over $425 million has been provided in soft loans through the Vietnam Bank for Social Policies. Value-added tax and environment tax on jet fuel have been lowered. The State Bank of Vietnam has been pursuing flexible fiscal and monetary policies while focusing on addressing legal and institutional issues to accelerate the disbursement of public investment for the effective use of the funding sourced from the program.
Vietnam ranked 11th among the top 50 emerging logistics markets, according to the 2022 Emerging Markets Logistics Index released by logistics and transportation service provider Agility. The index ranked countries for overall competitiveness based on logistics opportunities, business climates, and, for the first time, their digital readiness. In terms of international logistics opportunities, Vietnam ranked 4th and is said to have great potential for logistics development in Southeast Asia. Vietnam's logistics and transportation market is forecast to grow 7% annually from 2021 to 2026. This is thanks to the country's attractiveness to international manufacturing corporations and its fast-growing e-commerce industry.
The International Air Transport Aviation, IATA, predicts that Vietnam will be the 5th fastest-growing aviation market in the world, reaching 150 million passengers by 2035. The number of passengers that have passed through airports in Vietnam has reached 40.7 million, a year-on-year increase of 56.8%. The total supply capacity of Vietnamese airlines was 6.5 million seats, ranking second in Southeast Asia after Indonesia. Statistics showed that the aviation market received 23.3 million passengers in the first half of this year, an increase of more than 74.2% over the same period last year and equivalent to 60% of the same period in 2019.
Those are some highlights in Vietnam's economic scene. Up next in our crosstalk, we will look into Vietnam's effort to make effective use of FTAs in order to increase labor productivity and turn Vietnam into a high-quality global manufacturing hub. With outstanding results in recent times, the export-oriented manufacturing industry is now becoming an important engine for Vietnam's economy. In particular, new generation free trade agreements have opened up more opportunities and have put the country in a new field with strategic changes to improve economic cooperation and remove previous tariff barriers that used to hinder trading activities between countries. Experts believe that making effective use of FTAs can deliver the biggest productivity kick to Vietnam, promote the development of domestic enterprises, and turn Vietnam into a high-quality global manufacturing hub. And this is also the main topic of this week's BizLine. For more in-depth comments, we are now connecting with economist Tai Lung Nguyễn Mạnh Dũng, Vice President of Institutional Research from Maybank Investment Bank. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Implementing new generation free trade agreements such as the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership or CPTPP, the EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement EVFTA, and most recently the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership or RCEP has had a great impact on Vietnam's economy through the expansion of import and export markets. These FTAs have allowed Vietnam to gain access to many potential markets and promote relations between Vietnam and important strategic economic partners. We invite our guest, Mr. Tai Lung Nguyễn Mạnh Dũng, to take a look at the videos to see how have FTAs contributed to increasing labor productivity and impacted Vietnam's economic growth.
The process of international and economic integration has opened up great opportunities for Vietnam's trade activities. In particular, the implementation of new generation free trade agreements, FTAs, has had a great impact on Vietnam's economy through its expansion of trade markets. FTAs have allowed Vietnam to gain access to many potential markets by promoting relations with important economic strategic partners. The total trade value of the country in the first 8 months of 2022 reached $500 billion, of which exports reached nearly $253 billion and imports reached $247 billion. With this result, the trade surplus reached more than $5 billion. With outstanding results in recent years, exports have now become an important growth engine for Vietnam's economy. In particular, FTAs have also opened up more opportunities, improved labor productivity, and boosted production activities.
Particularly the new modern so-called free trade agreements are really not just free trade agreements. They're much broader economic cooperation agreements. The old-style free trade agreements, which focused just on tariff reductions and improving access to markets, were more narrow. But these regional economic cooperation agreements, you're getting much more flow of not just goods, but also services, investment, capital, and even people.
Free trade agreement is a deeper negotiation than just cutting tariffs. Cutting tariffs or other, quotas and things. A free trade agreement gets into quality standards, environmental standards, labor standards. It's a much deeper negotiation, and it gets into how the country manages the production, not just what the tariff levels are. So I think thinking about a flexible training that's focused, very specifically on skills is something that would help the broad groups of people find a good fit for what their interests and skills are and what the needs of the economy are.
Now we're back in the studio with Mr. Tai Lung Nguyễn Mạnh Dũng. It can be said that with the opportunity to join a large economic bloc, FTAs have contributed to attracting more investment in new production technologies and help boost labor productivity in Vietnam. So what are your opinions on this statement?
One of the main benefits that these FTAs like RCEP brings in is actually the reduction of tariffs. So which is for this case, most nations will be reducing their tariffs gradually to zero in a span of about 20 years. This will definitely boost investment, especially from member nations to each other. So for Maybank Investment Bank side, we definitely would be expecting further money flows coming from Singapore, South Korea, Japan, and even China. We have already seen lots of investment in the past years, and recently more movements of switching from investing in production capacity, mostly assembly line. They already switched to higher tech investment, right? For example, like Samsung, they almost completed their first ever $220 million worth R&D center in Hanoi. So that is their first ever center that is outside of South Korea. That's the reason why I think those kind of investment, right, are actually essential for our economy to access new tech and hence improving the productivities overall.
It is safe to say that FTAs have connected Vietnamese companies with many major international markets, along with the development of the export-oriented manufacturing industry. What can you say about the impact these agreements have had on improving labor productivity and the quality of human resources in Vietnam?
This access to this market will definitely open up a new door to Vietnam's good and balance back the trade deficit and with these big markets, and that would be a big boost to the production industry of Vietnam. In terms of the quantity, when we actually have a higher quantity of productions, right, we definitely going to have economy of scale. What does it mean is that when you have a company that has a scale, economy of scale, then definitely the cost of production will reduce substantially. And that will create like an oil spill effect to the economy and make us to be more competitive as an economy of a whole.
In the recent Purchasing Managers Index PMI report, the manufacturing industry output regained its momentum in August after slowing down in July, along with a boost from FTAs. What will this mean for the production activities of enterprises as well as the performance of the economy?
PMI is one metric besides a lot of other metrics to to predict about the health of the economy and how is it doing right now, where's the trend is going to go. So for Vietnam, we have been pretty resilient in terms of PMI despite global issues and also the pandemic. However, we are seeing signs of a strong recovery to us in Maybank. We don't think RCEP is already doing a great help yet. Definitely, but it will definitely would take some time for it to kickstart. And once the time comes, we're definitely going to be seeing more significant numbers in terms of PMI, in terms of production, in terms of GDP per capita growth. Contributing from RCEP. Currently, China is still closed due to zero COVID policy, and we are also expecting that that economy to be fully reopened after the central party meeting, which is going to be held at the end of this year, and when China to be open maybe in the first quarter of 2023, the RCEP will definitely start to gradually push up production even further.
FTAs help Vietnam diversify its products and markets. According to the Ministry of Industry and Trade, after 3 years of implementation, the incentives that enterprises enjoy are large enough to create stronger export momentum. As such, this is a time to prioritize boosting exports and take advantage of incentives from FTAs to improve product quality and improve labor productivity. According to a recent HSBC report, productivity kicks alone could raise real incomes by 5% by 2035 in economies like Thailand, Vietnam, and Malaysia.
That's a reasonable estimate. And, again, the reason is that Vietnam has a labor force that is productive. It works well with foreign investment. And I think one of the things you could do and should do is work on skilling people so that there are more managers, there are more sort of shop level engineers, and I think if you do that and do that kind of training, then productivity will increase. The machines will work better, the people will have higher skilled jobs, and they'll be paid more.
The development of global value chains promotes deep integration of the labor market and international labor mobility. This requires workers not only to have high vocational skills but also to have soft skills and gain the ability to work in an international environment. In that context, Vietnam needs to comply with common development rules, including labor standards and modern international labor market management standards.
Vietnam has done very well in terms of getting the increases in capital and technology through the economic cooperation agreements. But to get the real value, or to get the maximum value possible from the agreements, it's also important to build up human skills and also the physical infrastructure, because the demand for higher levels of skills, management skills, but also for more reliable infrastructure increase as you move up the value chain. Getting those things right are going to be increasingly important in the future.
According to many international organizations, the ability of Vietnamese workers to integrate still isn't high, and the skill level is still relatively low compared to regional and global standards. Thus, low skills can be considered a barrier for Vietnamese workers in the 4.0 job market and a barrier for Vietnam in achieving global integration in the future. Therefore, making effective use of FTAs will also contribute to increasing labor productivity and improving industrial efficiency, thereby increasing the country's competitiveness in the global arena.
Removing barriers for foreign direct investment can promote a better allocation of resources and technologies, but it will also create competition between different sectors. So what are the industries that can create a breakthrough in the near future, and why?
Expansion mainly due to the reduction of the non-tariff measures within the members state in the RCEP. What does it mean by non-tariff measures? They are actually the removals of all the custom duties, procedures, making import and export smoother, and that would definitely going to expand the speed of and the flows of goods between the member states. For automobile story, actually the middle class growth will definitely fuel strong demand for transport, especially cars, while Vietnam's main strength is actually textile. So the removal of non-tariff restriction will definitely fuel further orders for local plants and will definitely increase growth.
Estimates from the ADB suggest that productivity kicks alone could raise real incomes by 5% by 2035 in Vietnam. Can you tell me why Vietnam is rated among the group of countries that will have real income increase in the near future?
Firstly, we have a low base income. Therefore, if there's an increase in trade and access to new market, that would definitely benefit us as an export-oriented economy. Again, if we look at the export-import dynamics, RCEP will give us more access to market like China, Japan, South Korea, where we have been traditionally a net importer. That would create a lot of momentums for our own domestic industries to actually grow. Most of the products that we're actually exporting to China is including our strength, including textile, obviously furniture, agriculture, right? And then if those are the case, then most of the domestic companies in Vietnam will definitely benefit from being able to export more to this kind of new market.
Developing supporting industries and promoting the localization rate of export goods are the main priorities of the government. In the past, supporting industry enterprises simply processed small parts like this. Now, they can offer solutions and automation lines to serve the needs of FDI businesses.
Thành lập hẳn một cái trung tâm nghiên cứu. Đấy. Ở đây thì các bạn ấy là có nơi để làm, có nơi để thử nghiệm, có nơi để chạy thử.
According to experts, sustainable growth must rely on productivity growth, of which labor productivity is an important aspect. Labor productivity leads to income growth for workers. Labor productivity growth is partly based on human resource development.
Vietnam's done a tremendous job in terms of getting basic education provided very well throughout the country. But there's now a need for, as you move up the value chain, you've got to really focus on getting the vocational skills right and then the university skills as well. Making use of the people coming back from overseas to strengthen the institutions, but also build these linkages with international training education so you can share experiences. I think that's important.
Great opportunities come with difficulties and challenges. All members' economies have relatively high competitiveness, even in areas where Vietnam has strengths. Not to mention, Vietnam is also highly dependent on imported raw material and auxiliary materials. What does Vietnam need to do to improve the situation?
Most of our companies, the local companies, are still at the SME size, which means that we have high cost production in whatever we produce, and we do not have significant bargaining power with our international counterparties. Therefore, we need support policies to grow our Vietnamese companies, especially leaders in each sector, to be the leading force in pushing the economy of scale of Vietnam. More supportive policies are always welcome to help these leaders to grow in scale and hence translating into a more competitiveness character of the economy in overall.
From lingering bottlenecks in supply chains to the global economic slowdown due to recent fluctuations, trade is struggling across Asia, including in Vietnam. Will FTAs become an engine for the growth of Vietnam's economy, in your opinion?
So RCEP or any other FTAs are the driver of our economy. So as you may aware, our population is in a golden age era, and we are an export-oriented economy. We have a great degree of openness in our economy with FTAs between us and almost every continent in the world. We are actually the best, having most FTAs with all the parties in the region, in ASEAN region, right? So therefore, if there's is a competitive advantage of Vietnam, which will help us to continue being an export-oriented economy, and at the same time attracting foreign investment to enjoy the benefit of what I would call a full set of FTA offered by Vietnam.
Vietnam currently ranks second in the world in terms of footwear export volume. Exports to markets with FTAs such as the EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement, CPTPP, and the UK VFTA are forecast to record growth rates of 10% to 20%. This is the basis for the whole industry to set a growth target of over 15% this year.
It's developing really good. So there's an increase from around about 17% with a slight advantage for Vietnam. So it's not really balanced.
The great advantage of the reduction and elimination of tariff barriers to the EU has helped Vietnamese leather and footwear products account for over 80% of the market share. This is also the basis for Vietnam's leather, footwear, and handbags industry to set a target for exports to the EU to reach $35 billion in turnover by 2025.
Also in HSBC's report, Vietnam's top expanding sectors by market in 2035 will be wearing apparel and leather, electrical equipment and machinery and textiles, and contracting sectors are fossil fuels, wood and paper products, and basic pharmaceuticals. Is Vietnam manufacturing industry considered to be on the right track to become a manufacturing hub?
I would say that Vietnam is going to be moving up the value chain rather than just being a production house of the world. From like an agricultural-based economy, we have successfully moved up the ladder to be a more industrialized production house, right? Of course, we have been successful in transforming ourselves since the Đổi Mới era, but I believe that it's a long road to go in terms of focusing on quality domestic industry. I'm sure we will not be stopping at producing only leather and textile and so on, but there are companies that are born in Vietnam that are starting to produce even EVs, right? Cars, smartphones, and even compete in international IT space. Therefore, I think as Vietnamese, we all can be ambitious about it.
What are the next steps for Vietnam to make good use of FTAs to improve labor productivity and the country's ability to become a developed economy?
I think a balanced regulatory framework between attracting investment while maintaining the happening of the transfer of technology is something that we urgently need. I believe that owning the technology or moving up the value chain is more crucial in the longer term of the country's development. and so that the country can be more competitive in the global market. Key infrastructure is such as highways, airports, ports, railroads need further quality investment to improve the competitiveness of the economy as well. And last but not least is economy of scale. So again, most of our local companies are still SME size. Therefore, we need to have support policies to grow our Vietnamese companies, especially the leaders, so that they can lead the whole sector up and they can start to have negotiation power in terms of scale and size to be able to enter a higher phase of the value chain. So that would eventually, again, translate to a more competitive economy as a whole.
Once again, thank you for joining us. FTAs have removed barriers to foreign investment, and it is safe to say that they can also promote a better allocation of resources and technologies. As a result, FTAs will deliver the biggest productivity kick to Vietnam. Improving productivity also means improving the quality of labor. Estimates from ADB suggest that productivity kicks alone could raise real income by 5% by 2035. In addition, Vietnam is adopting a strategy toward developing an export-oriented manufacturing industry. This will contribute to increasing the productivity of the manufacturing industry and the goal of becoming a high-quality global manufacturing hub. And on that note, we wrap up this edition of BizLine. Stay with us for more content, or if you're on the go, feel free to download our app VTV Go from App Store and Google Play, or subscribe to our YouTube channel VTV4Go. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time.